What happened over Canada's skies that day still has defense planners shaking their heads. A moment no one expected. A moment that rewrote assumptions built over decades, because for the first time in a long time, Canada didn't look west for answers. It looked north to Sweden, to a jet that was never supposed to challenge the giants, yet here we are. A single decision, a single aircraft, a shot that rippled across NATO the moment the Gripen entered the conversation. And this is the story of how a small Nordic fighter forced Canada to rethink everything it thought it knew about air power, and how Sweden quietly changed the entire game. Canada wasn't supposed to surprise anyone. Its choices were predictable. Its air power shaped by alliances, expectations, and polite diplomatic pressure from larger partners. For decades, the United States set the tone. NATO echoed the rhythm. Canada followed the song, but the world around it shifted. Russian bombers crossed the Arctic like they owned the sky. Chinese icebreakers and research vessels pushed deeper into northern waters. And NATO allies whispered louder and louder, "Canada, it's time to step up." The old CF-18s had done their job. Nearly 40 years of service. Reliable, loyal, but tired. Built for a world that no longer exists, the Arctic is no longer an empty stretch of ice. It's a battleground of influence. A gateway to resources, shipping lanes, and strategic leverage. And Canada needed more than a replacement jet. It needed a guardian. Something tough. Something adaptable. Something built for independence, not dependence. That's when Sweden walked into the room with a quiet confidence. Not flashy, not loud, just prepared, because Sweden has lived its entire history surrounded by larger powers. Russia on one side, NATO on the other. Pressure from every direction, so it built something different. Not a giant, not a flying monument to defense contractors, but an underdog that could survive anything thrown at it. The Gripen. Experts laughed at first. Critics shrugged. A small Swedish jet, competing with the F-35. Impossible. Canada's fighter search was supposed to be a formality. Everyone assumed the decision was already made, but then the test began. The Arctic trials, the cold weather evaluations, the logistics simulations, and one by one, the assumptions started to crack. The Gripen didn't just perform well. It thrived. It flew in temperatures that grounded other jets. It took off from icy runways that would terrify most pilots. It turned around for new missions in minutes, not hours, and the moment that changed everything. When Canada realized the Gripen wasn't just a fighter, it was a symbol of freedom, because unlike the F-35, Sweden wasn't offering a jet Canada would borrow every time it needed new software. It wasn't offering to manage Canada's mission data. It wasn't promising shared control of upgrades and electronic warfare tools. No. Sweden offered something the modern military world rarely gives: full ownership, full sovereignty, full control. Canada could upgrade the software itself, modify the electronic warfare suite, integrate Canadian weapons, maintain the aircraft at home, all without asking permission, for a country with one of the largest airspaces on Earth. That mattered more than anything. The Gripen didn't just defend Canadian skies, it returned them. The turning point came when Canadian analysts saw how the Gripen handled electronic warfare. Modern combat isn't just about missiles and engines. It's about who can see first, who can hide longer, who can confuse the enemy without being confused. And the Gripen's modular EW system was a shock. Not because it was powerful, but because it was customizable. Canada could rewrite it, adapt it, improve it, without waiting for any foreign clearance. It was as if Sweden had handed Canada the keys to its own future. Here, they were saying, shape your skies the way you want. Then came the Arctic simulations, winter operations, harsh conditions that most jets hate. But the Gripen, its Rolls-Royce-powered heart, didn't even flinch. The new engine gave Canada something priceless, a fighter that actually likes the cold, a fighter that can start after nights that plunge below -40, a fighter that can sit on a frozen base in Nunavut and be airborne in minutes. The tests were supposed to reveal weaknesses. Instead, they revealed a perfect match. Climax, the moment the shockwave hit. When Canada saw the full lifetime cost projection, jaws dropped. The Gripen didn't just beat its competitors. It crushed them, not because it was cheap, but because it was smart. Longer engine life, easier maintenance, no dependency on foreign supply chains, no billion-dollar hangars, no endless upgrade fees. While others spent billions, Sweden used brains. It built a jet that saves money without losing teeth. A fighter that doesn't drain a nation's defense budget just to stay in the air. And the more Canada calculated, the clearer it became. The Gripen wasn't just an aircraft. It was a strategy, a long-term path to independence, a way to protect a 10 million square kilometer homeland without begging for support. That realization changed the tone in Ottawa. Suddenly, the underdog was the frontrunner. Suddenly, the quiet jet from Sweden was the smartest choice on the table. Then came the global reaction. And that's when the shock became real. Countries that had never considered the Gripen began asking questions. Defense ministries sent delegates. NATO officers exchanged uneasy glances. Analysts who once dismissed the jet now studied it carefully. If Canada, a G7 nation with strong U.S. ties, was choosing the Gripen, what did that say about the future? What did that say about sovereignty? What did that say about the world waking up to smarter defense solutions? Brazil had already seen the genius in the design. Eastern European countries were reconsidering their long-term plans. And for the first time, Sweden's philosophy was breaking through the noise. Build something you can maintain anywhere. Operate from roads. Survive brutal winters. Upgrade it yourself. Stay independent. And countries realized something powerful. Not everyone needs a trillion-dollar fighter to stay safe. Some nations need the Gripen, a jet that works for them, not the other way around. For Canada, the aftermath was deeper than hardware. It was emotional, cultural, strategic. This choice told the world that Canada was done being polite in matters of defense. Done following. Done waiting for permission. It was drawing a line in the snow. A line that said, these skies belong to us, and we will protect them our way. The Gripen became more than metal and electronics. It became a symbol of sovereignty, of confidence, of a country waking up to its own strength. And for Sweden, it was validation. Proof that smart engineering can challenge giants. Proof that creativity can defeat brute force. Proof that an underdog can shape global strategy. Canada found its perfect partner. And Sweden made history. The Arctic is changing. Great powers are circling. Tensions rise with every season. And Canada stands at the center of it all. With the Gripen, it now has the one thing it lacked for decades. Control. Control of its airspace. Control of its upgrades. Control of its strategy. Control of its future. From frozen runways in the far north to the tension-charged skies over the Pacific approaches, the Gripen gives Canada something priceless: readiness without compromise. A fleet it can maintain alone. A jet that fits the country's geography, climate, and mission profile. A partner nation that respects sovereignty above politics. It's the kind of choice that nations make only once in a generation. And Canada made it boldly. In a world obsessed with size, the Gripen reminds us of something simple: intelligence wins. Independence matters. And sometimes the smallest jet in the sky carries the biggest lesson. Canada didn't just buy a fighter. It reclaimed its air power. In a sky full of giants, Sweden built the one jet that changed the game.